I'm gonna keep this as concise and succinct as possible. I really enjoy the idea of bullet journaling, but I don't enjoy how complicated and time-consuming it can often end up becoming. The idea of tracking habits and tracking patterns is really powerful, but it needs to be simple or else it becomes unsustainable and overwhelming. With that being said, I did create a video on how I keep a simplified bullet journal that many of you guys seem to enjoy. And since then, I have further refined things and added and removed elements as I saw fit. The method that I'm gonna be sharing with you guys is built around this idea of trying to track emotional well-being and habits. I feel like I need to see things clearly so that I can assess where I'm at in my life. My thinking when approaching this topic and developing this for myself has been what exactly differentiates writing something down physically versus digitally. And that's something that I encourage you to think about for yourself because we all operate differently. The main differences that I can quantify are that typing or deleting things on my phone or on my computer is a lot faster, so there's a speed advantage, but precisely for that reason, writing things down seems to carry more importance. Kind of like I'm forcing myself to take an additional moment to think things through or consider them more deeply. That's another valuable thing to think about when developing your own organizational or journaling methods. So with that being said, here's how I journal to stay on top of my life. I would suggest sitting down somewhere comfortable with a hot drink and maybe a playlist of songs that you enjoy listening to while doing this. That's what I do because this is ideal to do in the morning, and let's face it, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get things going. So the more inviting it is, I think the better. I'll link to a Spotify playlist if you're looking for new material. So to give a brief overview, there are only 3 parts to my setup here: the daily tracker, my weekly reviews, and a monthly reset process. I've gone ahead and gotten rid of everything else because I don't want to bloat my journaling process here or make it any longer or more cumbersome than it needs to be. That does include even my daily to-do list, which I now create and maintain on Todoist. And that's a clear example, in my opinion, of using the digital speed advantage to do certain things a lot more quickly. So let's dive into things, shall we? This is gonna be really easy, I promise. It shouldn't take more than a few minutes to set up, honestly, and I'm just gonna explain my thinking behind everything. Starting with the daily tracker, this is something that I started doing a little over a year ago, and this is such a powerful way to visually see a consistency when it comes to habits. Essentially what I'm doing here is at the beginning of each month, I list off the days and then the habits that I feel are important and valuable for me to focus on and build or maintain. The cool thing about this is that I do find that those habits evolve and change as time goes on, and I'm gonna come back to that in a moment. I do handwrite this one out because I find that it's so much more satisfying to mark down whenever I've done habits physically rather than digitally checking something off. Every day or two, I update my progress. A couple of examples of habits I've been regularly trying to focus more time on are exercise, cold showers, meditation, time reading, that kind of thing. It can be whatever you want. Now, one of the interesting things that I think this very quickly reveals is how unrealistic you can be with yourself. So for example, in the past, I have set the goal of, waking up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. And that's just a really tough one for me to follow through on and do consistently. And it might not make sense for me. And it turns out that I am very creatively productive sometimes at night. So it might not make complete sense for me to do that. It's way easier to come to conclusions and assess things when I can see it all laid out before me. More than just forcing yourself into being some sort of idealized version of yourself, I think this is about being honest and seeing who you are and what you're actually doing. And so with all the information that I'm gathering by doing this, I might adjust the habits that I want to focus on next month. The other part of my daily tracker is a new addition that I recently made, inspired by one of my main objectives in 2020, which is to establish more stability in my life. And one of the very specific examples that I gave was more consistent sleep. I know that this is going to be huge for me, and I also know that tracking things is probably the best way to better assess the whole situation and begin to establish more stability. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm tracking when I officially turn off the lights and am in bed, ending the day, and when I officially get out of bed and I'm starting the day. As you can see here, I'm not very good at this. It's a lot harder than you would think when you don't have an imposed external schedule like going to school or a stable job. I am certain that many of the freelancers among you can relate to this. But again, the point of this isn't to beat yourself up and try to suddenly be perfect. Currently, I'm just assessing the situation and trying to bring as much curiosity to this as possible, almost as if I were doing a little experiment. And I'm a very visual person, so this is helpful in getting a clearer picture on what I'm doing exactly. I do think I've seen some improvement since starting this, from the simple fact that I'm taking a little bit more time to track it and be mindful about this. I just want to better understand things by seeing it. And I will add that just the act of tracking things has helped improve the situation. There's one really tricky piece to this puzzle that I haven't quite found yet. I'd appreciate your suggestions if you have any, but I haven't found a way to enjoy the productivity of mornings and the creativity of evenings and nights, late nights. It's kind of like I have to pick one or the other. It seems like the Spanish have come the closest of anybody with their siestas, which let them, I guess, stay up later and wake up earlier, and they just sort of catch up a little bit in the middle of the day. But I have a hard time napping as a general rule, so yeah, would love to hear your thoughts. Part 2 is a weekly tracker, which I use to review how the last week went. I find this a lot more useful than doing a daily review, which just doesn't feel like enough time to sort of assess things. It's easier for me to take things in week-long chunks. The idea behind this is that I'm journaling on my emotional well-being. Sure, there is some level of attention placed on productivity, but not that much. It's more than anything, this is about how I'm doing emotionally, because at the end of the day, that ends up impacting everything. These reviews are very important to me because it's an opportunity to pause and reflect and get more perspective on where I'm at in life. I don't want to make giant blanket statements here, but I think society does not place enough of an emphasis on pausing and reflecting on things. It's not exciting, it's not sexy, but it's so helpful in having clarity on how to move forward. And it's also super easy to skip over, which is why I think it doesn't happen more often. What this ends up looking like is sitting down for maybe 5 minutes on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning and thinking about how the week went in a general sense. Doing these weekly checkups or check-ins helps to get a sense of trends that are taking place in your life, which if you think about is super powerful because you can pick up on red flags or when you're kind of veering off course early on. So for example, I have long suspected that I'm affected by weather and that in wintertime, the amount of darkness and I guess generally the lack of light has an impact on me. And I've noticed that it can be kind of difficult for me to get out of bed and start the day, and that might require certain solutions like light therapy, or maybe I have a vitamin deficiency, but whatever the case, taking this time to kind of journal and actually think about it is what brought this to my attention. Finally, I do something very similar at the end of each month, often referring to the weekly reviews that I did and sort of taking them all together and thinking back on how things went overall. And so there's one page for that, and then one page for laying out where I want to place my focus in the coming month. Some might call this goal setting. I think this is a little bit different because it's not so outcome oriented. I'm making a huge effort on trying to just focus on systems and processes. That is where the process starts over again. So that's it, man. Very simple, and offers a lot of benefits in my opinion, especially when combined with maybe a gratitude journal or something along those lines. If I had to boil it down, this is about seeing emotional and habitual trends that are taking place in my life. And I don't spend more than 10 minutes on it on any given day. These are powerful insights to have, and there isn't an app out there that I feel makes me reflect in the way that this journaling method does. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, I don't know, but that's where I'm at. I hope this helped. Are you maybe interested in more journaling or organizational inspiration or ideas? May I suggest Skillshare, who are sponsoring this video? In all seriousness, I used Skillshare a few years ago when I was going through an intense phase of learning filmmaking and photography, and then I rediscovered it in the last year for the content that it offers in other categories actually, like lifestyle and productivity. It's definitely a resource worth looking into in 2020. I like it more than YouTube in some cases because it's clearly built and designed for people interested in self-improvement, and YouTube can sometimes lead you down a rabbit hole. I just find that the algorithms can be very aggressive and distracting. That's just something to think about because it's an easy trap to fall into. I definitely fall into that trap sometimes. You can click the link in the description to get a couple of months of Skillshare Premium for free to explore what they have to offer, your creativity, all that good stuff. It's pretty sick because having Skillshare Premium gives you full access to everything that they've got for way less than the cost of in-person classes and workshops, I should add. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. I'd like to recommend this very comprehensive class on filmmaking. It touches on all the important points, and I really enjoyed the approach and exercises in this one. So consider checking it out, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.